excellent.
Well, thank you for joining me for another episode of the Mind Your Business podcast. Today is a special episode because we're talking to someone who knows what it takes to build a thriving team, lead high-performing businesses, and turn challenges into opportunities. Caleb Minton has spent years in the restaurant and hospitality industry. He's led some of the biggest and busiest locations across the country. He's overseen multi-million-dollar operations, managed teams across multiple states, and he's among the top 1% of restaurant leaders, earning him national recognition. With a track record of improving employee engagement, growing revenue, and developing future leaders, Caleb brings a ton of experience to the table that will help us grow. So welcome to the Mind Your Business podcast, the podcast for whatever business is on your mind. Let's get started.
Well, that's excellent.
So Caleb Minton, thank you for joining us on the Mind Your Business podcast. I can't believe we got you to take this time to invest in us.
Hey, Brandon, thanks so much for the opportunity, man. It's a pleasure, and man, we've been connected for years and had the opportunity to be in a part of the congregation there at your church, and man, it's a great honor. Thank you.
Wow, man, it's been so cool watching you grow over the years that I've known you. Not only have you already been accomplished in so many things, but professionally, but I've watched your life grow personally, watched your family blossom. Just tell us, Caleb, just so people can get to know you, tell us just a bit about maybe yourself and your family, just a little background about Caleb Minton.
Yeah, so first off, beautiful wife of 6.5 years. Two young children, Asher and Stella. Asher just turned 5, and Stella's our little Spitfire. She's got her mother's Cajun blood for sure, and man, very blessed to have that blessing from the Lord. And yeah, so I've been in restaurants for 16 years and had the opportunity to shepherd teams across different states and different concepts. And I love the people business, and that's why I've stayed in it. Yes, at the end of the day, frying food and grilling, and but at the end of the day, it's about shepherding others and shepherding them well.
Wow. Okay. So that's what I love so much about you. Not only little known fact for people that we share a name in our kids, or both of our sons are named Asher, but I love your leadership in that you see people. And I believe that is the key concept for every organization is beyond profit and product is to see the people. And you certainly do that. Now, all the years that you've been doing all the industry of restaurant business and hospitality, you've kind of run the gamut of different types of organizations and different restaurant chains. And so right now has been a unique experience for you just over the past couple of years because you've taken a specific chain and really launched a key location, the flagship in Nashville, Tennessee. So can you tell us just a little bit about what that experience is like to look at something and take the vision and the strategy of a brand that you represent, launch it in a brand new city, and now see it thrive and grow? Some people would be intimidated about that process, but you went all in to make it happen and has been such a success. So just tell us a little bit about that process.
Man, I tell you what, it's when you're working with people, you're working with people, but there's so many different dynamics that come with that. Folks come from different backgrounds, different template thinking on how they've worked in different concepts before, different roles, and really bringing them all together. I say there's two different types of people in the world. There's doers and there's talkers. So at the end of the day, we've got to be doers, and have to be very transparent with ourselves. So I say a lot, if the baby's ugly, the baby's ugly. Let's just talk about it and get the elephant out of the room and get it on the table. So talk about very transparent with where we're at and where do we need to go. And I think it starts, in my opinion, with really casting vision in the beginning. Like, here's where we want to be. We're going to strive for excellence, not for success. Because I think a lot of times, in my opinion, if you work towards that success piece, you get caught up with chasing other people or chasing certain metrics or goals. But if you really focus on the pursuit of excellence and how do we pursue excellence personally and professionally, what does that look like from all the way from the restrooms to building schedules and managing inventory levels and the people development aspect as well, is how are we constantly challenging ourselves against ourselves, not necessarily just the pursuit of success. So, and that fire and grit in your belly, I believe is what creates the competitive spirit and allows you to continue to be competitive.
That's incredible. I love that. So the pursuit of excellence over success. And if you achieve excellence, ultimately you achieve success. Man, that's really good right there. So do you think in the pressure of it all, because I'm thinking about what you have done and what you've accomplished, launching out, taking a brand new brand, flagship location, brand new city, that's a lot of pressure. How did you manage the pressure and the weight? Because not only is this your professional life that you're doing, but also you have uprooted your family. You've moved to a brand new state, a brand new city. You've taken your kids, your wife. So you're adjusting your personal life and your professional life. And that's a lot of pressure. Do you think that taking it in bite-sized moments, like chasing the excellence over the success, help you manage the pressure of it? How did you do that?
So I believe, first off, God's really blessed me with a very supportive partner. My beautiful wife, Chelsea, just very supportive, and we stay connected with each other. And I think it's important to have that daily walk with the Lord, and that allows you to stay grounded and looking for how do you put encouragement back in your life, because self-leadership has to precede the team leadership. So the self-leadership, and I talk to my team a lot about the analogy of the water pitcher. So if you have a water pitcher, you pour it into 3 cups, right? Then the pitcher's out. So how are we putting back into that pitcher? In my opinion, the priority piece with faith, family, fitness, and business. So business is on the bottom. But if those other 3, if I'm failing in those accounts, those categories, then I don't feel like I'm able to give it my all to the business piece as well. So with the faith, for me being involved in a church and walk with the Lord and leading my family in a Christ-centered home, the family piece, how am I being intentional with my time with my wife and my kids? And sometimes it's a struggle. It certainly can be that, like, hey, put the phone down and focus. Like, family time doesn't mean we're just sitting there watching a movie and fall asleep watching a movie. How are we going to get time with my wife and my children, and intentional outings as well? And then the fitness piece, and that's one that I struggle with sometimes. Just how do you fit into the schedule?
Sure.
But at the end of the day, kind of referring back to earlier, there's doers and talkers. So you can talk about it and lay the game plan out, but then they just got to do it. Just got to make it happen. And then the business piece. So for me, I find that all 3 of those categories, if I manage those first, then really, sure, there can be some stress levels to it, but the business piece just kind of falls into place. So I think those are the foundation to setting me up for being able to be my best and pursue excellence at work. I do that through for the personal development piece. I do bi-monthly leadership coaching with an executive coaching team. It's great just realigning my priorities and making sure I'm staying on track with that, and challenging my thought process on what am I doing with my family and my faith, and that really for me sets me up better to excel professionally as well. I enjoy during my commute getting a podcast in. And rotating through those and reading leadership books.
Yeah.
I do some leadership books, not as much as I used to. I do a lot more podcasting now because quite frankly, I got discouraged because I felt like I wasn't completing a lot. I would get halfway through the book, 3/4 of the way, and something comes up, and I like the podcasting because I feel like, to your point, the bite-sized pieces really feels like you get some wins under your belt.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to have those small wins because it I believe it builds that confidence piece.
Yeah, man, that's incredible. There's so many things that you just deposited there that are just high level leadership principles that can really transform every single one of us. I love the difference in a doer and a talker. And so I would challenge all of us today to really take inventory of our life and ask ourselves, are we doers or are we talkers? Because that's important. I love that your personal leadership that you talked about, that's the foundation of it all. The hardest person we'll ever lead is to lead ourselves. And
Yep.
so learning to lead ourselves even before we lead our teams, and then the priorities that you gave us, I think we could all align our life in such a way that would help us to do that. But you're talking about managing all of these different areas of your life. You just talked about growing yourself personally, your personal leadership before you have your public leadership. But I also know that in what you do, in the high capacity leadership that you have what they say, a lot of irons in the fire, or you wear a lot of hats. So you're talking in your leadership, you're overseeing physical property, you're overseeing staffing, you're overseeing training, you're overseeing customer service. I mean, every little moment of the day and every element of it, looking for excellence. How do you manage wearing all of those hats, Caleb? I mean, you talked about some of the prioritizing. What are just some practical things maybe that you found in your day-to-day that we could employ in our own leadership?
So I think life's a roller coaster, and if we ride the peaks and the valleys of that roller coaster, emotionally we get burned out, and then the complacency sets in. And when the complacency sets in, there goes the grit and the fire in your belly.
Yeah.
So being able to manage your own regulate your own emotional ambiguity, I think is very important because your team needs to see that. I believe that the candidate for whatever business, you really have to have a strong candidate profile and not stray away from that candidate profile. Here are the top traits I'm looking for. Here's the type of experience I'm looking for. Maybe it's no experience, but here's what I'm looking for in a candidate, and staying very true to that candidate profile, because that's going to allow you to get the right people in your team that you know are going to work well with within your organization, within your leadership style, and trusting them and delegating out. They may fail a couple times, and that's okay. What I do with my team is we do one-on-ones every month. And during that one-on-one, it's not me sitting down and saying, hey, here's what I think you do great. Here's what I want you to work on. I allow them to come in and say, hey, they present to me. I say, the joke is, what do you got for me? So I sit down and what do you got for me? They tell me, what do they feel like they're doing really well? What do they feel like they need to focus on? 9 times out of 10, it's the feedback I would have already provided. Now, early on in those one-on-ones, like for any new leader that's on my team or we've developed, and we start working through that process, it's a little weird, right? So they don't know where to go. I give them, there's a template where it just gives them gives them some ideas of what to talk about.
Yeah.
But I like that because it builds self-awareness and through self-reflection. So that self-reflection, I believe, builds great self-awareness, and that self-awareness is going to allow them to build their confidence to where they're going to execute better in their role. And we don't talk about just to business. We talk about how are they doing in their personal life. So right now I've got some folks, we're going through life planning, and it's 90% personal. There's some professional piece in it as well, but it's okay if that business piece is on number 4 or number 5, because want them to be more successful personally, because I don't believe the customer experience will ever exceed the employee experience. And the employee experience has to be really strong in order for the customers to get the experience that I desire. And that, I think, is very important, but it starts with that candidate profile. How does that candidate profile align with what I'm looking for, to set that up, and delegating out, and trusting those leaders that they can do their job.
Man, that's incredible. Delegation and trust. 2 things that you just provided that can transform a workplace. How many people are struggling carrying all of the weight? They're trying to maximize all of their time to do all of the things, when if they would just invest in other people. And I love your investment process, that it's not just based on the task at hand or the job that's in front of them, but it's on who they are as a person. You're digging into their personal life and investing into their personal future. And who wouldn't be motivated to come to work into a place where my boss is investing in me. They really want to see me do good, not just get the work done. I mean, who wouldn't be motivated to go to work for you? I may sign up if you've got any openings. I may come to work for you. I love it. I encourage people, listen to this and take what Caleb is saying and go employ this into your own organization. The integrity of who you hire, be true to your values of the people that you want representing your brand, and then invest and grow those individuals so they can be the best that they can be, both personally and professionally. And then that takes some of the weight off of your shoulders. Man, that's so good. Caleb, it's no secret if anyone works or is following the workforce that there's just a lot of struggles out there. There's a lot of people who are not passionate about what they do. You know, we're still talking about quiet quitting and disconnecting and disengagement and the staffing, the turnover rates that we have. How are you navigating some of that, especially in the restaurant industry? I know that can be a really tough industry to be a part of. There's a lot of challenges there. What are you seeing, or some of maybe the common threads that some other people may face, and then maybe some advice of what could be done just to combat some of the struggles that we have today?
So I think that candidate profile is so important, making sure we get the right people on the team in the beginning. Now, sometimes it goes wrong, and it does. You know, people may display certain traits in the interview, and it doesn't pan out, and that's fine. But knowing when, knowing the right people to select, the selection process, I think, is so important. But I think you've got two different types of leaders, really, well, three. They swing in opposite directions. They're either just hard-nosed and jerks, or they're the hugger and no accountability piece. And that's okay, but I think there has to be a fine line in the middle to where you select the right candidate, but then there needs to be really strong guardrails of, hey, here's our expectations. Show up on time, good attitude, ready to work. We can teach and coach the rest. And holding those basics, necessities of the job, holding them accountable to that. Because I think people want accountability, and they may say, oh, you know, I don't want accountability, but deep down they really do. They want you to hold them accountable to showing up in their uniform, good attitude, ready to work. And I believe that fosters a very competitive environment to where you can really perform at a higher level. You create a high performing team at that point when there are some very basic guardrails in place. Now, there's going to be times where there has to be some flexibility there, I think. Life pops up. Life happens for people.
Yeah.
How do you help them through that process and do life with them without being the extreme of the hard-nosed, the jerk, or the hugger? How are we still able to walk through them in their journey with life and still able to help them not only be successful in their personal life, but professionally as well?
Yeah.
But I think the other thing is very intentional recognition, not just, hey, I'm going to buy a bag of candy, here's some donuts.
A pizza party.
Pizza party. Very intentional celebration through maybe it's birthdays or anniversaries or celebrating a special day. Mardi Gras is coming up. You know, it's big down in the Gulf Coast area. How are you very intentional with those days? I think is very important, because I believe they really appreciate, I know I do, the intentionality of the execution of that. So versus, hey, here, like you said, here, pizza party for what? You know, maybe it's National Cheese Pizza Day and you're celebrating that. But I think it's very important to be intentional with that, because people feel it comes from a more genuine place, and you're more authentic the way you deliver that. Now, it may have been planned out 2 months ago, which is great, because there's genuinely thought process put into that execution for that.
Wow. Caleb, you're one of my favorite leaders. Man, you and I share the outlook so much together, and I'm watching you employ this every day. I see all of your posts. I watch you on social media, watch your leadership. And one of the favorite things that I see is your one-on-ones that you talked about that you have with your employees. I see you highlighting the successes of those that you lead. And so I want to ask you a question about that, because a conversation that I hear a lot with a lot of different leaders, especially leading this current workforce generation, people say, I'm not their babysitter. I'm not the one. I'm just making sure you get the job done. And so I think on a leadership side, we have a lot of leaders who maybe are just burned out or just jaded from just dealing with some of the problems that we have today. So I don't know if they've just run out of gas and they don't have what it takes to pour into the next generation to mentor them. I hear so many of them say, that's not my job. That's not what I'm here to do. I've hired you to do something. I expect you just to come in and do the work. But your mentality is so different and the results are so evident. So how do you think someone could take from, it's not my job, I'm not here to mentor, I'm not here to guide, I'm not here to train, I'm just here to manage. How can they shift that mindset to think like you think, to experience what you've experienced?
I think that's very common. That's where folks get burned out. Maybe they got involved in the business and that any business, any industry, and that's how they started out. They were very big on the people piece, and they rode that roller coaster of life, and they weren't able to manage and regulate their own emotions. So that ambiguity through that process has burned them out. But I think there's a few simple things that people look for when joining any organization. They want to know that you care. They want a sense of community, and they want the ability to contribute and be developed. So I think if you tackle it from that perspective, they may be burned out and say, "Oh, that's not my job," but they're giving folks the ability to contribute. So delegating, they're doing development with one-on-ones, providing resources for maybe life planning or coaching or leadership books or podcasts, and that I believe really shifts the ownership and care piece from the individual all the way down to the individual team member, to where it kind of builds their fire back. They get that fire in their belly. So seeing others, and for me, really grow and their eyes light up when they show up to work,
Yeah.
that fuels and excites me. I love that. I think that's great. So the ability to really see transformational life change for folks to where
awesome.
they're growing personally and professionally is exciting to me. That's what gives me fire. So I think really shifting the mindset of, hey, I'm here to serve and shepherd others and shepherd
Yeah.
them well, can really change someone's outlook. Look, it's not the 80s and 90s anymore. You can't manage with walking around the clipboard and
That's
say,
right.
hey, do this, do that. I mean, it's different. The leadership style has to grow and adapt to whoever they're serving.
Yeah, but I think it's exciting, Caleb. I mean, who wants to walk around and just bark orders just to get things done? I mean, at the end of the day, not only are you serving a great product or you're representing a great brand, you're building something that's incredible, but you're building people. And to me, that's more exciting than anything else.
Absolutely.
I think ultimately you're building the most important quality or principle of any organization, and that's the culture. You have the ability to shape the entire culture of the brand that you represent. And so I think it's incredible what you're doing and the way you're doing that. I want to ask you about that because a couple of things that you mentioned that I think are pretty important. You mentioned the onboarding process. There's some specific things you're looking for. There's some specific questions that you ask to see if they're going to be able to adapt to the culture, fit into the culture that you're creating. So that's one thing I think is interesting because you didn't say I'm looking for specific skills. You talked about more of who they are and can they fit with the organization that you've created. So I want to ask you about that intentionally. What are you looking for? Maybe what are some of those things? And then the brand that you represent is doing things much different than other restaurant brands. So are there a few things, maybe how you're hiring and the overall culture of the organization and the brand that reinforces the health of what you're creating? So tell me a little bit about the company culture and what you're creating in that aspect.
So the great thing that I love is that I have the ability to create and execute recognition how I see fit. I think that flexibility to allow me the ownership over that is really important because if it's, and I think for any leader, if they say, hey, this is how you're going to reward your team. You're going to bring donuts on Fridays, and we'll call that, rewarding and recognizing your team. I don't think that's very creative. I think allowing leaders to be creative. Hey, here's your budget and do however you see fit. and learning through that process to how is it really authentic coming from you, I believe is more important. Talking about that selection process, I don't always necessarily look at who they are now. I mean, yes, to an extent for sure, but I look at who do I feel like I can develop them into.
Man, that's great.
So I look for some very basics like, are they making eye contact? Are they smiling? Do they seem engaged during the process? Do I feel like they can show genuine hospitality and do it well? And maybe in talking, kind of referring back to that template thinking, they've had different experiences in life, work or personal, and their template thought process is already pre-programmed to react differently. But do I feel like I can grow them into something different and transition that template thinking? So that's really what I look for, just the basics of do I feel like they can really show genuine hospitality and be professional? And then really, who can I grow them into?
That's so good. That is every person who leads other people needs to write that down right now to see who they can become and not who they are. And I think that is so, we want to hire people and grab people over their gift and their ability and what they've done and what they've accomplished the moment right now. But if you can take someone who is moldable and who is trainable and who is teachable, I'll take someone who's teachable over someone who is prideful every single time. And I love that you're looking at that. Do you think that the overall brand, Caleb, do you think there's certain things that are characteristics that happen throughout all locations that keep the brand healthy and bring it where it is? Kind of like you're overseeing all the people that you touch every day and you're looking for certain qualities. Do you think that happens across the entire organization?
I think so. I believe that. The ability that you're given to just be very authentic with that process, I believe is what differentiates it for sure.
That's awesome. Now, let me ask you this, because I know that when you are people facing, you're dealing with the public, and that's always fun because people are interesting, if we can say it that way.
Yeah.
So part of what your responsibility is hospitality. You're serving other people. You're taking care of their needs. It's putting the customer above yourself. And I know that's hard, especially today. People just don't seem to have the same level of consideration for others as maybe we once did. I don't know. Maybe that's just my own, distorted view. But I want to ask you about that, because how do you navigate good quality customer service when that seems to be lacking in so many of our organizations today? Even some of the largest companies that we all do business with seem to struggle with customer service and have low levels of customer satisfaction. What are you doing differently?
So I think it's very important what I enjoy, I should say. What I enjoy is serving craveable food and creating shared memories through personalized experiences. And I think those personalized experiences, same thing with the employee piece, there's a level of intentionality that comes with it that makes people feel genuine hospitality. How do they really feel that hospitality? Now, there are times where the customer's not right. People say, "Oh, the customer's always right." Well, there's times the customer's not right, and that's fine. But how do they really feel that genuine hospitality, to feel like they're loved and they're cared for?
Yeah.
And I believe that breaks down a lot of barriers with folks. Same thing with that template style thinking. They may have had different interactions over the last 2 weeks at different restaurants or retail, and something wasn't right, so they walked right up to the counter or the manager, and here's what I need. It was messed up. How do you keep messing this up? And maybe they've never been there. And how do they really feel genuinely loved and cared for through that process on how you're able to resolve it? At the end of the day, they just want you to hear, listening to actually seeking to understand versus just listening to respond through that process. So
that's great.
Sometimes just keeping the mouth closed and letting them vent, and sometimes that's all it is.
That's great. Listen to understand. Don't listen to respond. Because if you're listening to respond, you didn't hear anything to begin with.
Yeah.
And most people just want to be heard. They want to get it off of their chest. They want to say what they feel. They just need an outlet to relieve the frustration that they have. I love that. I think, Caleb, the next component I want to ask you about there is you're a seasoned professional. You know how to take care of people. You know hospitality. You've got it. I mean, you could do this in your sleep. I know that you've got this down. But you're entrusting teams of people to represent you and to represent your brand. You're bringing in people and you're sending them out. You're turning them loose to be the representation of the brand that you have. So what are you doing specifically to be able to impart that same hospitality, that same perspective, your customer service ability into other people so that you feel like they're representing you well, that you can trust them regardless of the circumstance or situation that you may face with all of your customers?
Yeah. So first off, the ball gets dropped. Is the game plan executed 100% of the time? No, the ball gets dropped. I think casting that vision early on with them during the selection process, during the orientation process is so important because that really helps them understand what your expectations are. This is my expectation for customers, for the hospitality piece, the cleanliness piece, the product quality piece, and this is the goal. And we don't need to fumble the ball at the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
We need to get it across get a touchdown there. So
yeah,
division and realignment. So if you see, the other thing I say a lot is ABC. Always be coaching. So see something, say something, because not acknowledging a behavior. Hey, you didn't smile to that customers or interact with them very politely. And it's not a beat you upside the head. It's a, hey, let's talk about this. Let's have realignment to that vision we casted in the very beginning. Here's our expectation. What happened there? Oh, I'm having a bad day. You start breaking down a lot more barriers there and getting to the root cause of what the issue was. Maybe there was a gap in training, or maybe there's a gap in the selection process. What were the issues? And I think it really comes back to the casting vision and constant realignment with always be coaching.
That's awesome. That is so good because I think that is so true. Just in one of our previous episodes, we talked about the need to repeat the vision over and over, that you can't just say it once, that you have to reinforce it over and over. And I love your statement, always be coaching, that you're always correcting, you're always looking. And I love that you are constantly thinking about your team and your staff. That you didn't say one time that you step up or you take over or you go in to correct it yourself, but you're actually coaching and helping them get better so that they can address, the different needs that may arise that may come up in a different way the next time, but they're prepared regardless of what that situation is going to be. You have a constant focus on empowering and equipping your team. And I think that is so crucial. What would you say? Because I'm listening to you, and these are the things that I'm picking up on that I think is so important. I know you have competitors that are listening to this, and there's people in different spaces, and a lot of people who are dealing with just being burned out with their teams, or maybe it's customer service. What would you say is maybe some things that people could start focusing on today? If someone walked away from our conversation and said, man, I really want to be able to lead like Caleb. I really want to see the transformation in my organization that he has put in place in his. Are there just maybe a handful of things, maybe they're principles or disciplines that you have that you think could be immediately infused into their environment?
So I think it really comes back to the self-leadership piece. So what guardrails they have in place to make sure, myself included, make sure that we're developing ourselves as leaders? Is it through podcasting? And what community do you have to help hold yourself accountable? Because I think that sense of community is really important, because when you feel isolated, you feel like the woe is me mentality sets in, and I'm by myself and I'm the only one going through this. Well, that's just not true. So we something we're going through now, someone else has already gone through. So I think building that community, the self-leadership piece, how are you pouring into yourself and trusting your team? There's times where the team drops the ball, where I delegate something out, and it's okay. That happens. I expect there to be some gaps there, but the follow-up piece to that, I think, is very important. So I think there's a lot of times where delegation just happens and then there's no follow-up at all, or there's only follow up at the end. I think it's important to delegate, follow up like in the middle, like, hey, where are we going? Get a little check in, and then the follow up at the end of the overall project or task. So I think that's really critical. Following those steps, and maybe that's delegating a project out to a leader. Hey, here's what I need you to do, and let's say the check-in processes goes through, during the task at the end, and the ball is dropped, and that's fine. But I believe what's really worked for me is, especially during the one-on-one process, is allowing them to reflect on that, because it's really exciting to see how their own self-reflection and listening to them talk through that, how that takes place, because it really builds that confidence piece. Because what I found, there really is a lack of self-confidence, but helping them feel more confident in their role, and then knowing that they're supported by you, whether they fail or not, I think is very important, because they have that confidence that you're in their corner no matter what. And I think that's what really builds the camaraderie and folks that'll do anything to take care of you in the business.
That's awesome. Yeah. So everybody today, take this and go do it. Some of you that are just struggling, or maybe you're just discouraged in the process. I think you need to start with yourself. Just take what Caleb said. And Caleb, you are, if I've got this right, your priorities, you said faith, family, fitness, and then business. You put all those things, all those components together. So go out there today and start doing this and build yourself so that you can build a healthy team. Healthy leaders build healthy people. And I love that. Caleb, do you have a favorite? Just this kind of just come to my mind as I'm listening to you talk about building yourself and then building your team, those two components that people can infuse right now. Do you have a favorite moment? Is there something that maybe there was someone that you took a chance on, or there was just someone that you just watched grow that was just such a success story that just encouraged you or fueled you, and you were thinking, I'm so glad that I took that chance or that I did that? Is there just a story like that, or someone you've worked with that you think would be encouraging to share?
Yeah, I'll think of a recent story the last couple of years. There was an individual, and younger individual, and they were, I really saw a lot in them on who I could grow them into. Not a lot of experience in restaurants or even the people business, but I felt the traits that I saw in them, I felt like I could really grow them into a high performing leader for me, and for the organization. So what was really interesting during the process with the coaching and the check-ins and helping them walk through different experiences. Hey, this popped up, I didn't know how to handle it. Or this popped up and this is what I did. Well, it probably wasn't. Let's talk about some other ways we could have handled that situation. Watching this individual go out and get their first apartment, get their first car, set up a retirement account. They started saving for their future. Was really exciting to me. And the individual came to me and said, "Hey, I'm really liking what I'm doing. I'm really setting up a solid foundation, and but my parents kind of makes fun of for what I do. That I work in the restaurants, and they don't really see that as a respectable career. So what does your parent do?" And they said, "Well, they earn money illegally," and I won't go into specifics on what they do, but
Yeah.
I said, I'm so excited and proud of you to see that you're affecting generations of your family, what you're doing. So the fact that they're able to help their younger siblings and their future spouses and partners, and this individual as well, and those children, what they're doing is generational impact. And that just gives me goosebumps talking about it. That to me is what the business is all about, is that right there, because it's more than serving craveable food and creating those shared memories, creating shared memories with each other just by doing life with each other. So the fact that we're able to change generations is I think pretty special.
I love it, man. That is so good. Caleb, You need to do this everywhere. You need to just take a different restaurant every year, a different business, and just go spin. You're going to have to go out on your own and do this because this needs to be in the middle of every single organization. I love it. Seeing people and changing lives. Not only are you guys doing a great job doing what you do, serving the food that you serve and creating the atmosphere that you create, serving the public, but man, you are creating inside life change for people that is generational impact. And that is powerful. What an honor it is to get to lead people. And I wish everyone listening would take that mentality and begin to do it. Well, Caleb, I want to ask you one more thing before we go. I know your time is valuable and you're spending it with us, and I appreciate it so much. Your restaurant brand has a secret sauce that everyone loves. And so I want to ask you, what is the secret sauce for Caleb Minton? Do you have just this one thing that you think is the secret sauce to everything you do that would sort of wrap up all of our conversation today?
Man, I think everyone has a secret sauce. What is it? Maybe good ingredients or bad ingredients. For me, what's so important is here's the vision I have for my life and my family, the faith, family, fitness, business, and constant alignment weekly and monthly. Hey, where am I to that vision and my goals for myself and my family? I think that's so important to have that constant realignment and being very honest with yourself and giving yourself some grace. Hey, this is the expectation or goals that I had. I did not hit that this week. I did not hit that this month, this year. Giving some grace through that. But again, there's doers and talkers. So what are you going to do about it? Taking action on that, I think, is so important. So I believe it really starts with just having vision for yourself and your family. And for me, that's faith, family, fitness, business.
That's awesome. If I had to say Caleb's secret sauce, if I'm just experiencing it from the outside, I would say is that Caleb is a doer. And he's not a talker. He backs up what he does. And not only does he live for himself, but he lives life on purpose, and he's doing it for other people in the process. Man, Caleb, thank you for investing this time in us today and every person who listens. I want people to continue to follow your journey just to see what you're doing and to continue to learn from you. Is there a specific way or a certain social site you'd like people to connect to so they can see what you're doing?
Man, I love LinkedIn. I do like LinkedIn. So Caleb Minton, yeah, LinkedIn. But Brandon, thank you, man. Genuinely, thank you for you, your leadership, and man, it's been such a fun relationship to be able to maintain years later. But man, thank you so much.
It's an honor for me, Caleb. Thank you. Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Caleb. Caleb is an incredible example of what leadership can look like in the marketplace. And so I want to encourage you to see and lead others in the same way that Caleb does. This is the kind of leadership that would transform the places that we work. Well, thanks again for joining me for another episode of the Mind Your Business podcast. Don't forget, like, subscribe, share this with others, leave a review, and until next time, go and mind your business.